Christina's Conscious Energetic Thought Process, Planet Utopia, Episode 113022, Degrees of Detrimental Oversight. Is Planet Utopia a last hope before the final curtain? Project Planet Utopia designers imagine the uncorrupted, pristine environment to potentially manifest the world where we hope will start out differently from the world conditions and aberrant extremes on Earth, of the misinformed humans and misguiding authorities who truly do want to protect us, but they too are influenced by the matrix of educated ignorance. My acronym PRJWBCHM evolved from different factors that were replaced as I realized, for instance, the W factor for war more accurately describes the culminating incentivized human conditions that employ military power. War devastates, but the military system can serve peaceful purposes. So I changed the initial acronym from PRJWBCS, where M stood for military and the S stood for system, first, to schemes, and finally to W for war and H for hierarchical, replacing system and schemes, adding M for matrix. To put it another way, the acronym PRJWBCHM, politics, religion, justice, war, belief, complex, hierarchical matrix, continues to represent formidable, long-established power-packed authorities and traditions, which is hierarchical, whereas a system of universe, at minimum, is a polyhedron. The tetrahedrons, one quantum of energy that omni-rationally, coherently accommodates thought language, thought action, correlatively to learning more about the isotropic vector matrix, and universe's multiplication only by division. Clarifying these PRJWBCHM interaccommodating factors that represent millenniums of overwhelming momentums of persuasive tradition and fear-engendered hesitation is to question and eventually obsolete the power-backed authority that officially suppresses the TLBSWME, especially since truth, love, beauty, symmetry, wisdom, maximum economy of omnidirectional, omnicomprehensive, omnirational universes, cosmic and local episodes, regenerating integrity, in scenario universe of events, are what we can anticipate on Planet Utopia. It is critical to exclude PRJWBCHM when designing human environments on Planet Utopia. The events are ceaselessly intertransforming. Intertransforming events are conceptual, referentially to four-dimensionally energetic synergetic behaviors. Our individual imagination's ability to formulate conceptually, logically, requires knowledge of a minimum event's topology and geometry for systemic thoughts, potential comprehension of the always and only coexisting complementarities that physics has found. This means the generalized content of the apprehended information induces the relevantly discerning synergetic observer, who is designed in principle to cogitate reliably in respect to equilibrium and perhaps can do so in respect to vector equilibrium. Self-reliance would naturally be essential, and from childhood to adulthood, and perhaps to parenting, because humans, as an evolving mammalian species, procreate future generations. Generations of humans populate the planet, functioning as an intelligently evolving species. Therefore, it is illogical to supplant the TLBSWME of humans in universe with any self-other, spuriously invalidating PRJWBCHM predomination. We experience those spurious, self-serving interests, but we do not always associate the worst-case scenarios on an individual basis when the microbiological and other genetic factors are not necessarily correlative to the PRJWBCHM inherited detriments. The more conducive to health-sustaining life support, self-other validating coexistence, the more potentially accurately defined is the human condition. With so many newly considered relevant factors as we begin designing Planet Utopia's local environments, awareness of the TLBSWE becomes increasingly more omniconsiderately inclusive. And also what must be excluded, such as, for instance, pernicious adherence to the slave mentality conditioning that is super divisive with undying intention to divide and conquer, to keep divided, to keep conquered, as if such detrimental thinking could possibly represent unbiased humanity and the manifestation of a true democracy. Striving for unity is inherently different from what rationalizes capitalizing on the differences in skin color, especially now that the freedom to speak one's own mind consciously liberates the individual's every degree of self-other validation. Detrimental products of any ill-begotten elements like racism and a supposedly valid critical theory can come in variously packaged perpetrating agendas that nevertheless promote self-deluding information to inadvertently induce the emulative motivations that tend to satisfy a momentary curiosity, but with lasting ill effects. Again, self-reliance and truth of self-discipline must not be confused with the PRJWBCHM punitory deceptions and the slave mentality as a subset of those interrelating factors, because that too can strike a dissonant chord of almost indiscernible subtle influence, as that behavior exemplifies aspects of the R factor's multi-personality, self-tormenting disorder. The pull and push of it compromise self to extremes of psychotic and physical displacement. It is where personalizing the words fault, shame, blame can grow disproportionately humiliating, turning into crime and punishment as a self-other destructive aberrant reaction. Instead, the word responsibility closer associates with responding and corresponding to the interpersonal communication experience between the child's and the parent's interactive behavior. Both are learning, evolving, adapting to the manifest form. And so the more omniconsiderate the manifest form is, as the experiences are individually processed, is also, as geometries are produced, the more likely the geometries of thinking are conceptually formulated referentially to consciousness evolution's systemic thoughts, general systems, the symmetrical tetrahedron. The symmetry accommodates the aberrance, so perhaps the aberrance manifests in predominantly asymmetrical interactions to the worst extremes, when there is no epistemological awareness of systemic thought, structural integrity, and pre-frequency of primitive tetrahedron. Clearly, the anticipatory design science designers' projections toward Planet Utopia, as its metaphysical intellect becomes a synergetically focused function in the thought, language, thought, action, communications process, occurs as an increasingly more self-reliant, self-disciplined information gathering, cosmic local problem-solving process. The main difference is the local environment is on Planet Utopia, as the reenacting articulations on Earth exemplify increasing tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of observations, experiential experimental degrees of detrimental oversight. Until next time, thank you. Reference R. Buckminster Fuller, Synergetics, etc. Synergetics cover plate number 9, Cosmic Hierarchy, Synergetics 201.10 through 201.11, AAA NOEA, an absolute accommodation network of energy articulation. Synergetics 311.18, Synergetics 1001.20 through 1001.23, Synergetics 1005.10, Synergetics books online for purchase, Synergetics book 2 online for purchase, satellites, prison populations, world poverty,